Welcome back to the Sage Audio channel. Today we'll cover what might be the best vocal chain. We'll discuss each step taken, why each decision was made, and listen to the vocal as it's being mixed. Keep in mind that each vocal is different and needs unique treatment, but the vocal chain shown here could be useful to you nonetheless. So if you want to hear a new vocal signal chain, or maybe you're having some difficulty getting yours to sound as good as you want, like, subscribe to the channel, and stick around for the full video. But first, if you're an artist, engineer, or producer, and you have a mix that you need mastered, send it to us at sageaudio.com. We'll master it for you and send you a free mastered sample of it. All you have to do is set up an account, upload the song, and we do the rest. So the first step is optional, and that's to use a gate. Before we start getting into the signal chain, we do have an optional step, gating. Now, although it's best to edit out any parts of the vocal that you don't want to be present, gating can save you some time or make the vocal sound a little bit more natural. Now, I like to utilize the range of a gate to attenuate the signal if it falls below the threshold, but not to completely cut it out. Additionally, it's a good idea to use gating first in your signal chain if you do intend to use it. This ensures that breaths or other unwanted sounds don't get amplified by other forms of processing. Let's take a listen to the difference between a gated and not gated vocal.
Blinding light, gates of white, hurt so bright. Every time you walk through the room, I cry a little.
So the first insert that we're going to use aside from the optional gate is the FabFilter Pro Q3, which I'm using for subtractive equalization. Subtractive equalization is a great first step. With it, you can attenuate any aspects of the frequency response that you don't want amplified later on. You can also subtly amplify aspects of the vocal, but keep in mind that this is going to cause more aggressive subsequent processing. Additionally, feel free to use a different clean equalizer here instead of the Pro Q3. Let's take a listen to it.
Blinding light, gates of white, hurt so bright. Every time you walk through the room, I cry a little.
The second insert that I'm going to use is the Weiss de-esser. Next, it's time to attenuate any additional or unwanted sibilants. Taking care of this now ensures that you don't need to use aggressive processing later on. Now, how much you'll attenuate will depend on the vocal performance and its content. However, I like to avoid compressing more than 5 dB if possible. If your vocal doesn't need to be de-essed, then of course you can skip this step, but it's included here because most vocals will need it. Let's take a listen to it.
Gates of white, hurt so bright. Every time you walk through the room, I cry a little.
For the next insert, I'm going to use the Soothe 2 plugin. Soothe 2 is a unique plugin. It dynamically attenuates the signal in particular areas to reduce any harshness that signal might have. I like using this plugin in tandem with a de-esser to pick up anything that might have been missed. When using this plugin, I'll use the ultra resolution mode to minimize the effect of phase cancellation and unwanted artifacts. Additionally, I'll keep the attenuation pretty minimalistic, which I monitor using the delta function to ensure that too much isn't being cut out. Furthermore, using the bands available, I make sure that I'm only allowing the plugin to affect the high frequency range, somewhere around the sibilants of the vocal. Let's take a listen to it.
Blinding light, gates of white, hurt so bright. Through the room, I cry a little.
The fourth insert is the FabFilter Pro C2, used for compression. This is the stage where a lot changes. The settings that we're going to use with the Pro C2 should, if done correctly, add a lot of gain, character, presence, and truly balance the vocal's dynamics. Using the vocal setting, we'll lower the threshold until we get about 6 to 7 dB of attenuation. Furthermore, we'll use the automatic makeup gain function and the auto release to make the setting more program dependent and dynamic. I'll also use a faster attack and turn on very mild look ahead to avoid distortion. Lastly, to avoid any additional distortion from aliasing, I'll use 2 times oversampling. Now, whether or not you use this function will depend on the sampling rate at which you recorded your vocal. The lower the sampling rate, the more likely it is that oversampling will be needed. Let's take a listen to the plugin.
Blinding light, gates of white, hurt so bright. Every time you walk through the room, I cry a little. Cross my heart and hope to die. Place your hand into mine. Your dream, your vision calls to me at night.
Insert 5 is the FabFilter Saturn II used for saturation. With our frequency spectrum balanced, our sibilants tamed, and our dynamics controlled, we can now begin to amplify aspects of the vocal. What I want to do first is add harmonics and some unique coloration to the vocal. Using the Saturn II, I'll select the preset Dynamic Warm Transformer. I find that this preset quickly adds a fair deal of pleasant harmonic distortion and makes the sound more indicative of a recognizable, classic analog sound. Although it sounds great already, I'll reduce the mix to about 40%, but use more if you find that you want a more aggressive or prominent lead vocal. From there, I'll enable linear phase for a smoother sound and make other small changes like adjusting the high frequencies to better suit the mix. Although this is a great preset that employs sophisticated and dynamic analog emulation, there are other presets that will work well here. The Tube and Mythical 3D are some additional great options. Just be sure to make changes where needed. Let's take a listen to it.
Blinding light, gates of white, hurt so bright. Every time you walk through the room, I cry a little. Cross my heart and hope to die. Place your hand into mine. Your dream, your vision calls to me at night.
The next insert will be the Seventh Heaven Pro, which is used for room emulation. Although I typically wouldn't insert reverb this early on or use it in the main signal chain as opposed to using it as a send, this reverb is going to be used to emulate the sound of a recording studio. Essentially, what I want this reverb to accomplish is to create a realistic room sound, as if the microphone had subtly picked up the room reflections of the studio in which the vocal was being recorded. I'll reduce the mix to make this effect subtle as well. Furthermore, I'll cycle through the different room types to find one that I think complements the vocal nicely. Ideally, this effect will thicken the vocal and provide a nice sounding effect. This plugin in particular is great for this, but other impulse response or convolution reverbs will work well. Let's take a listen to it.
Blinding light, gates of white, hurt so bright. Every time you walk through the room, I cry a little. Cross my heart and hope to die. Place your hand into mine. Your dream, your vision calls to me at night.
Insert 7, which is going to be the last insert in our main signal chain, is the Oxford Inflator, which is used for compression. I can't exactly put my finger on what this plugin is doing, but I know that more times than not, it has an incredibly positive effect on the sound. In this instance, I'll use a fair amount of the effect, as well as increase the input and decrease the output. Furthermore, I'll utilize the curve function to add more body to the vocal. How much of the effect that you use will depend on a lot of factors and your personal preference, but I thoroughly enjoy the sound that this plugin imparts onto a vocal. Let's take a listen to it.
Blinding light, gates of white, earth so bright. Every time you walk through the room, I cry a little. Cross my heart and hope to die. Place your hand into mine. You dream, your vision calls to me at night.
So the first send that I want to use is to the 7th Heaven Pro, which I'll use for reverb. With our primary vocal chain complete, it's time to start using sends and auxiliary channels. The first channel I want to create is more reverb. Although we used reverb earlier on, this one will be more stylistic. It'll also most likely be larger sounding and play a more significant role in affecting the vocal. I choose the vocal plate setting on the 7th Heaven Professional and enjoyed the sound. Furthermore, I followed the reverb with an equalizer that's capable of mid-side processing. With it, I attenuated some of the side image near the vocal's more prominent frequencies. I also amplified the same range on the mid-image. This focused the vocal's reverb a bit more, but this is more of a personal preference than anything else. Lastly, I cut out some of the unneeded lows and blended the effect in with the original vocal using the auxiliary channels fader. Let's take a listen to it.
Blinding light, gates of white, earth so bright. Every time you walk through the room, I cry a little. Cross my heart and hope to die. Place your hand into mine. Your dream, your vision calls to me at night.
The second send that I'm going to use is to the Artura Memory Brigade, which I'm using for delay. Another temporal or time-based effect, delay from Artura's Memory Brigade, gave the vocal a classic and complex tone and presence. The delay has an analog sound and can be altered between two timbres. I chose the 1100 setting. I synced the delay to the BPM and introduced a good deal of feedback. Keeping an eye on the overload indicator, I dialed in the input level to right before peaking. I also maximized the echo effect and dialed in some vibrato to give the vocal a fuller sound. Lastly, I blended the effect in and made it somewhat subtle using the auxiliary channel fader to adjust its level. Let's take a listen to it.
Blinding light, gates of white, earth so bright. Every time you walk through the room, I cry a little. Cross my heart and hope to die. Place your hand into mine. Your dream, your vision calls to me at night.
Lastly, on the third send, I use the Antares Auto-Tune for vocal tuning. Although this auto-tune may not be the most comprehensive in Antares line of tuning plugins, it'll work well here. That said, if you have a version that you like better or one that gives you more to work with, go with that one. What using tuning as a parallel effect allows me to do is keep the effect as subtle as I want. Furthermore, I can send just the tune signal to my other two sends, the reverb and delay, to blend it in further. As a result, the tuning is present, but can't be picked out of a recording. If you want more obvious tuning, then this isn't the best way to go about it, but for subtle tuning, it's a great option. Let's take a listen to it.
Blinding light, gates of white, hurt so bright. Every time you walk through the room, I cry little. Cross my heart and hope to die. Place your hand into mine. Your dream, your vision calls to me at night. Blinding light, gates of white, hurt so bright. Every time you walk through the room, I cry a little. Cross my heart and hope to die. Place your hand into mine. Your dream, your vision calls to me at night.
So, these are our thoughts on what might be the best vocal chain, but what do you think? Are there some things that you would do differently? Let us know in the comments section below. Also, if you're an artist or an engineer, send us one of your mixes at sageaudio.com. We'll master it for you and send you a free mastered sample. All you have to do is set up an account, upload the song, and we do the rest. But thank you so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like and share this video with your friends. This way we know if you'd like to see more videos like this one. Also, you can subscribe to the channel. We release new videos every week, and subscribing is the best way to stay up to date. There's a comment section where you can leave your thoughts on this video, or you can make a suggestion for a future video. And again, if you're an artist or an engineer and you have a mix that you need mastered, send it to us at sageaudio.com. We'll master it for you and send you a free mastered sample. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next video.